Good morning, everyone. Nicole here from Eat Well Halifax. I am doing my versus video today on canned tomatoes versus fresh tomatoes. Which one is healthier? I had some really cool comments, so I'm going to try to touch on everything that you guys had mentioned. So what I'm going to really do is pros and cons of fresh and pros and cons of canned, and then tell you what I think in terms of my professional and personal decision on which one I would use. So I'll start with fresh. So pros and cons of fresh tomatoes. Now, this is a field tomato grown in Nova Scotia. So this, I'm going to tell you right now, is ideal because it was picked off the vine when it was fresh, ripe, and therefore the highest in flavor and nutrients. And that's when it was transported to Halifax, and I had bought it in Halifax. So the transport time, the time sitting on the shelf, was probably about 3 days from harvest to being eaten. So freshest and most nutritious, hands down, is a local tomato in season. And if you don't like tomatoes, try a field tomato from Nova Scotia. You might just change your mind. When we purchase tomatoes that are imported, there's a few things going on there, especially in the winter. So the problem is that they're grown for the purpose of transportation. They're grown so that they can easily be stable in the truck and on the shelf. So they're not grown to be super nutritious and tasty. Not only that, but they're picked off the vine before they're at their highest quality, before they're their freshest, and before they're their most nutrient dense. And that's so that they can preserve the tomato over time. Because once it's picked, especially if ripened, then the shelf life is much shorter than if they were to pick it when ripe. So there's a few things going on there. So if you ever have a tomato in the winter that's mealy, and the texture is not great and the flavor is not really there, it's likely because it was picked off the vine and traveled for a very long time and sat on the shelf. So that texture is quite different. So a local fresh tomato in the summer is definitely the way to go. Imported in the winter, that's, if you ask me, where canned and frozen tomatoes come in handy. So on to pros and cons. And if you're watching and you have any questions, by all means. So it was brought up that you do want to get no salt added. So these are no salt added canned tomato. So pros of a canned tomato is that they are canned as soon as they're harvested. So there's no time for the breakdown of nutrients. And once they're canned, the nutrients within the can are preserved. So unlike traveling fresh tomatoes, the oxygen is not getting to the tomato, nutrients aren't breaking down, so they're quite nutrient rich in the can. And usually places that are growing and canning tomatoes, it's the same place. So once they're picked, they're canned right away, and that's really great for nutrient preservation. So they're quite stable once in the can, so that's really good. So they're also cooked. So somebody had mentioned lycopene. So lycopene is an antioxidant found in red fruits and vegetables. So high quantity of lycopene in tomatoes. Lycopene will prevent, it may prevent cancer. It prevents heart disease. It's incredibly important for making sure that our cells are nice and healthy. The problem with lycopene is that it's stuck in the cell walls, so you actually don't get the lycopene when cutting a fresh tomato and eating it as is, because again, the lycopene is stuck in the cell wall. So cooking, it's going to break down the cell wall. The lycopene becomes available to our bodies, and it's a really powerful antioxidant. So in cooking the tomatoes, that is going to actually release the lycopene, and we're going to have access to it. It becomes bioavailable. That's what that's called. So in terms of any negative sides of canned tomatoes, well, you can't just slice them into a salad, of course. So the use of it is a little bit limited, if you will. As long as there's no sodium content in it, they're pretty good. A lot of people ask as well about BPA being in the lining. BPA is a hormone disruptor, often used in a lining to prevent foodborne illnesses. Most canned companies are not using BPA anymore, so it shouldn't be so much of an issue. Some definitely are. There's also a question of how much BPA would you be getting and the quantity that would be toxic, but most canned companies are not using BPA anymore. So this is my personal opinion. Go for fresh local in the summer, and in the winter, go for a no sodium canned tomato. And if you're making a salad or something in the winter, yeah, fresh is available and you can definitely get that, but it's not going to be as tasty or as nutritious as a locally grown, fresh, seasonal tomato. So that is my comparison for canned tomatoes versus fresh tomatoes. And again, let me know if you have any questions or any comments or even concerns of anything that I said. And I hope that this was helpful. So thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful Tuesday.